Hi, this is Wendy, and I was noticing with the questions on YouTube that a few people have asked me, how are you doing? And it seems easier to just make a short video and let you know how I'm doing than to type it all out several times. Right now I'm living in a small town in New Hampshire. I'm on the little screened-in porch. I've been living with a friend of mine's mom who has taken my dog and I now have one dog. My daughter's dog, Mike, passed away a couple of months ago. And so we're living here. I pay rent and help out, and she's a really nice lady. She's an elder lady, and I really like her. She's a really good person. And I'm very grateful that she's taken us in because I am working right now. I guess I should start with, after Bree passed, I was living still in this same little town, but everything was sort of little part-time jobs and stuff I was doing. Everything was starting to stop, and so I made a decision to sell everything I owned and leave the rental and move in with my sister and brother-in-law for 6 months. And I wrote the Breezeway cookbook. It felt like the most logical thing to do to carry on her legacy and to share the information with whoever else was interested. I mean, it's a cookbook that's good for anybody dealing with any type of physical issues, chronic or otherwise. And so I did that. So I spent the whole winter doing that. Every day I would make my food, walk the dogs, write, take breaks, walk the dogs, write. And I was doing that, and and it was the first year, the first Christmas. It was all difficult. And then on January 10th, I remember I was out walking. It was a cold, blustery day. And where I was living was unusual territory for me because I'm used to mountains and lakes, and it was flat, and the wind blew through. This area was surrounded by 3 lakes, so lots of wind. And I was wondering, will anybody care? Why am I bothering? And I got back that night, and I received an email from TEDx asking me to talk on TEDx the following May 18th in San Diego. And that was on the anniversary exactly to Bree's funeral. So the way I am, okay, well, this is a sign, and so I did that. And then once I had finished the book, my niece, Leanne, was helping me get the book finished and upload it, self-publish it on Amazon. And I had enough time to do the little children's book about Bree and her dog Mikey, which is called A Gift from Gracious. And we did that. And then I had an opportunity to move back to the town I'm living in right now. And I got a job, a live-in job, with a lady I know's mother who had Alzheimer's. So it was, going to help her out a lot. So I moved in, and I was paid. I worked for visiting nurses, and I was paid to do this. And for 6 months I stayed there, and it was very difficult. It's very difficult, these situations. But I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to have met Janet and to have spent time with her. Unfortunately, a lot of friends leave. All the friends leave. Everybody leaves sometimes when your life is in crisis. And I became her best girlfriend. And I'd take her for rides, and we'd go for walks together. We watched movies together. And it didn't matter if she wasn't remembering things. I'll never forget. I went away for a weekend to visit my brother, and I came back. And she was so excited to see me. She jumped out of her chair and clapped her hands like this. So she was a gift. She was a gift. it's a very difficult situation. And you know, Alzheimer's is, from my research and my study, is heavy metal mercury toxicity. Now we have mercury in medications in fish and or dental fillings, on and on and on. You know, I got to see that, but I've also been given the gift of learning how we can get these heavy metals out of our body with heavy metal detox green smoothies. So it's like just a lot of learning. And then she passed away. Very difficult passing. And a friend of mine, I didn't know where I was to go. I had no idea. And a friend of mine who lives in Maine, and her fiance invited me to live in their home and see. So I thought, okay, I'm going to Maine. And I always had to find a place where I could have my dogs too, because you know, you have a dog or a cat, that's a responsibility for their lives. You know, they're feeling beings. You don't just abandon them, in my mind. So I went to Maine, and nothing happened in Maine. I applied for jobs, but nothing was happening in Maine. I think it was just a wait station for me. And I was asked back to where I am now to doggy sit for a weekend. And then when I was here, an old friend had a new house and was under renovation and asked me to paint a couple of rooms. And then I went to the food co-op where I used to shop, and I saw a notice on the door for needing an employee. And like that, within no time, I'm back in this small town where Bree spent 2/3 of her life working. And what happened is I had nowhere to live. So my friend in Maine's mother lives in this small town in a community, and I asked her, could you ask your mother if she would mind a renter? I said, because she'll say no to you, and I don't want to put her in an uncomfortable position. Now remember, I had sold all my furniture previously before leaving the area, and she invited me up to look at the spare room and see if it would work for both of us. And I walked into her spare room, and my old double bed was in the bedroom. So I'm going, okay, sign. And then I had given up my post office box because I'd left the area in my mind. So I went to and she agreed that then I had my 2 dogs with me, that we could live here. And I went to get a new post office box, and I got my old post office box back after 3 months, so or more. So I'm going, okay, a couple of really signs that, you know, what are the chances? Especially the bed. I had no idea my old bed was bought for this lady's spare room. I had no idea. So I started working I am now working at the food co-op here in town. I work 40 hours a week, but it actually ends up being more than that. I'm doing small radio ads for them, and I'm working the supplement section in the food, and I just love my job. Do I make enough money yet to have my own place? No. But I love my job. I just have to get to a place in my life where I love my job, and I also make enough to, you know, easily pay for my expenses. I live very simply because I don't own any furniture, or I just own my car. So now I'm working here. I get to do, and maybe I'll share some of these on YouTube. I mean, I've done green smoothie demos at the store, and I've done heavy metal detox smoothie demos at the store, and talked about sea vegetables, which I've made. There is one on YouTube, that class I held at the store, and bringing more vegan products into the store, because I'm the only plant-based person that works at the store. Yes, don't presume because you go to a food co-op or a health food store that, and I've done this all my life, I haven't presumed that they live it or they do it. It's actually rare that they actually live it. I do, but I would always do my own research and then go into a health food store or a food co-op, and I had already done the research. I knew what I was looking for. It was a matter of whether they had it or not. I purposely tell people I am qualified because I am qualified. So, and I've lived, and they know I live it. I'll tell you a little story. So, I live in a small place in New Hampshire, and Steven Tyler of Aerosmith has a house in New Hampshire. He used to spend his summers in New Hampshire as a child, so he's got a lot of old friends and people here. And maybe 15 or 20 years ago, in front of another store, I was with Bree out on the sidewalk, and he'd come over to talk to us. And of course, I knew about him, and so I'm at the store I'm now working at, and we're about to close. I mean, just about to close. And in he walks, and I look over and I see him, and then I go, oh, okay. I see him again, I go right up to him, which is unusual for me, and I said, I met you years ago with my daughter. And I said, I don't know if you remember, you meet so many people, but I said it was in front of this store, and he said, I think I do. Because this is small country, so it's a place he spent his childhood, so it's very different from being out there wherever he is in New York or Los Angeles meeting hundreds of people. And so I got to, with his girlfriend and his secretary, I got to just share what I know for an hour, and we just locked the door and just went, and was able to say different things about this is a good product, or this is and it was fun. So that was sort of like a fun off thing that happened there, and it was great. It was really, really great. So I get to meet a lot of people. It's a tourist town. Who knows what the future holds? The only thing in my future right now is my brother. I have 4 brothers and 1 sister, but my brother, who I've always been, I love them all, but my brother, who we've been like tight since we were kids. We were only 3 years apart, and we've always been best friends. He's got a whole bunch of frequent flyer miles, and he's taking me to Ecuador for 3 weeks next March. That'll be my first official vacation in 40 years. So alone, that's my first since I was a kid, in my late teens and early 20s. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll be going with my brother, so it's great. And I have good friends who have a hotel and spa on the coast of Ecuador, so it's going to be a wonderful adventure, and I could use some adventure. So with my YouTube channel, I just keep studying and reading and experimenting, and I keep sharing with you what I learned, so that hopefully there will be bits and pieces or whatever that is of value to you. This is definitely a way I can share my daughter's legacy. The young man who is now 20, who films all these for me, he's my computer go-to person. I used to babysit his older sister when she was 18 months old. So his family, I've known his family for a long time. He started filming about 4 years, actually 4 years ago, I think it was, when he used to sit Sunday afternoon for a few hours with Bree so I could walk my dogs. And then one day he was the one that, I think we talked. And how I started making the YouTube was I was having a really difficult time, not only with the state for services with Bree, but also with her father. Her father was trying to back out of support for her, which is just his legal responsibilities, nothing more. I don't hate her father, never had any. It was just that he wasn't on board. At the beginning, he was, when I did the stimulation program, but when Bree didn't get totally well, he lost interest, and that was hard for me. So I left him, not because I hated him or didn't like him or love him. but I was alone, and I just thought I might as well be alone. And he didn't like when I did the stimulation program. As long as he was away at work, it was okay, but he really didn't want me to do it. And I was definitely driven to do the best I could for my daughter. I have no regrets about that. So, but he always fought me on basic things, like he would rent a car for us because I needed a car with Bree, to take her to appointments or whatever she needed. And so for about a year that went on, and at the same time the state was threatening to withdraw a small stipend that paid our food unless I gave up guardianship of Bree. And that was a lot of stress. It's a high stress being a caregiver, but having those extra two things. And at that point, I think how it all came about is I might have asked Ben to film, because I knew that I had to become visible with Bree. If we weren't visible, all these agencies can just sweep you under the rug, literally. So it was out of need and survival that I started doing it. I started sharing, because, the other side of it is the YouTube trolls. And I remember the first time I did a video reacting to that. The first time I experienced the ugliness, it just is devastating. I mean, I remember crying all night, and it took me days to, I couldn't understand that the level of just meanness, the level of lack of empathy, lack of compassion, that people could say the things they said. And so it was, and then I, with time, I answered back to it, but with time I realized anytime I see anything like that, I know it's a very sick, hurt person. I can't even imagine saying those things to anybody, no matter who they are. And I realized you've got to be pretty sick. My daughter was loved her whole life, and she was wanted, and she knew that. Someone who is a troll like that, they couldn't have ever felt loved or wanted by their families. Something had to go wrong somewhere to be so mean and indifferent. So, but it took a while. I mean, it was so shocking at the beginning. I mean, that's not how I was raised. That's not how I lived my life. And it was shocking that people could just randomly be like that. So that was a hard part of, coming out onto YouTube. But I really do hope to carry on. I want, not only hope, I work every day at carrying on my daughter's legacy. When people come into the store and they're talking to me, I've had a woman who had migraines forever, when I start talking to her, and then I suggest she was actually a nurse practitioner, and I suggested she go off all dairy products. And she looked at me sideways, but I said, just think about it. That's all I said. Just think about it. Just try it for a week or two. And I think it was a month or so, she comes back and says, you changed my life. My headaches are gone. My migraines are gone. And she went off dairy. But she told me honestly, at first, it was, I thought, whoa. Those things I go and I tell them, you can thank my daughter, because the only reason I'm here is because I was forced to change my whole lifestyle to keep my daughter alive, to move to another country to keep my daughter alive. And if you're willing to do whatever it takes, miracles happen. So was it hard after Bree passed? Of course, it's still hard every day. It's also really hard starting over. Every day of Bree's life, I knew I had a purpose to keep her safe and as healthy and happy as I could, as long as she was here on the planet. And then when she passed, the feeling like I was lost was because, what do I do now? So that's why I continue to do the YouTubes. I continue to share information. I've started a podcast. I'm still learning the whole podcast thing, and thanks to the young man, Ben, who's helped me out. You know, I'm learning that slowly. And then also at my work, I'm learning a lot about supplements. I'm meeting vendors. I'm learning about their products. I'm learning how to weed out the good from the bad. Because that's another side that I hadn't seen. And before Bree was born, I had worked in business. I had done many different jobs. I had a ski school. I'd managed stores. I had worked as a receptionist, all kinds of things. I mean, I've been working part-time since I was 12. So it all just comes back. That all comes back. And I thank my mother. My mother was an amazing, smart business mind woman. So that's where I am. I'm not sure what the future holds. I will do my best to keep. At times, in the summers, I can do more videos because Ben is visiting his family, back with his family during summers. I can do them whenever he comes to visit his families. I can do a couple of videos and get that done. So I will keep, to the best of my ability. I will answer questions when I can. I mean, honestly, this 40-hour week that turns out to be more like a 50-hour week, I am, after a 10 hours at work, I get home, I walk my dog, feed my dog, make my food, because I still want to eat healthy, and make my food and prepare it for the next day and eat. I'm done. I mean, I just, I'd be answering someone and just not be clear. So I try when I have a long weekend like this weekend, or when I'm feeling fresh and awake. But I'm only in this job 8 months now, so I had to pretty much hit the ground running. I'm keeping up to the young ones and doing very well, and very easily keeping up, which I thank the plant-based diet. I thank Bree every day, because to start over at my age, when most people are retiring or have been retired for a few years, is a challenge, and it's darn scary, because who's going to want to hire someone who's older? But at my work, I clock in 5 miles a day and 14 to 19 floors. So I turn it around and say it's my gym. It's keeping me in shape. So I hope this has given you an idea of what's gone on since Bree passed. I am so grateful that I'm so grateful that I got to be her mom. I'm so grateful that you guys follow me on YouTube, because, I'm just a regular person out here surviving like everybody else. Hopefully, I am, sharing information that's of value to you all. Little bits, tips, whatever. That's the whole point. We're all trying to do the best we can. So thank you. Thank you so much.